the road is the road, you know. And I think people get discouraged because they're like, oh, you do things, you submit them. Yeah, but you know agents aren't reading your shit and you're not sending them straight to a studio. Like, it seems impossible. But it is, like you said, about doing the work, about having friends read, about opening up your circles to people who are more in the business. And your talent hopefully will naturally float you up, you know, toward the top.
I'd like to welcome to the show, Alex Dinelaris. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, my friend. Well, first off, great name. I'd like to first name it. It works.
I think it means leader of men. If you look it up, that's what my mother used to tell me. Yeah, from Alexander the Great, I think. Yeah.
Of course, your mother would tell you that because you're Latino, and that's what my mother would tell me as well.
That's right. That's right. I tell you, it's a really funny thing right now. So, you know, my relationship with my dear friend and my director, Alejandro Iñárritu,
sure.
who never calls me Alex, he always calls me Tocayo for namesake, right? And then I was producing films with two directors that I'm now developing films. We'll talk about this later. But anyway, one of them is her name was Alex from Chicago. Right now I'm producing this Colombian artist film. Her name is Alessandra. And her director is Alejandro Mejia. So every time we're on the call, you're like, which Alex? Alex 3, Alex 2, which Alex? 7 Alexes. We have no idea who's who.
And growing up, I couldn't meet one Alex, but now they're everywhere.
I know.
They weren't as popular back then. But listen, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've been a fan of your work and what you've been doing outside of, obviously, your Birdman and other things you've done as well. But my first question to you, sir, is how and why did you want to get into this insanity that is the film industry?
I mean, I sort of backed into it a little bit. I grew up in this tiny little town called East Rockaway, Long Island. And I had a movie theater across the street from me, one of those big old movie theaters called the Criterion. And it was one of those ones back because I'm old now. So I'm talking about like late 70s. And it would one movie theater, big curtain balcony. They played one movie. If it was good, they played it for 6 months. If people were coming, like, it never changed. And my house wasn't the greatest place for me to hang out in. So I used to sneak across the street and just sneak in the movie theater and watch movies all day. And that's when I fell in love with movies. So I was like 10 years old and I was watching movies like Kramer versus Kramer and, you know, Great Santini and Justice for All. These were all my favorite movies. I mean, Rocky too and stuff like that. But I was watching anything that was there. So then in high school, I fell in love with theater. And for 1 second, I was going to be a theater actor. And then 1 second later, I knew I wanted to direct theater. So then I studied theater. And I had a weird life, man. Like, I had a weird life. I had some tough times. But I found myself in a little university in North Miami called Barry University.
Oh, yeah. I know Barry very well.
You know Barry? There you go.
Oh, so I was there, very well.
I was at Barry for 2 years. And then I came back to New York because, again, I was a total mess. But I was studying theater, and then I was in the restaurant business because I had to make a living. And one day I wrote a script for a friend, and somebody saw it and liked it. And next thing I knew, people wanted me to write instead of do anything else. And it was easier to do when I was working in the restaurant business because you could get home at 2 a.m. and write. You couldn't get home at 2 a.m. and direct anything. You know what I mean? I couldn't afford the time off. And then my scripts just got Danny Aiello is actually my fairy godfather. I don't know if you know Danny. Rest in peace, Danny, the unbelievable actor from Do the Right Thing and Moonstruck. And Danny got a play of mine and fell in love with it and said, "Who the hell are you? I need to work with you." And we did a bunch of readings, and he was like my fairy godfather. And then he got me to Johnny Planko, who's a very famous manager who handled like Lauren Bacall and Peter O'Toole. And he asked, I mean, more like Anthony Quinn, Paul Schrader now. I mean, just amazing. And Johnny, because I was doing a play with Danny, who he represented, said, "Do you want a manager?" I was like, "You?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "You're the only person. I would be the only person on your client list that I didn't know." And he said, "Nonetheless, I think you're going to be good." And he signed me, got me to CAA. CAA got me to Alejandro. Alejandro Iñárritu and I did Beautiful together, the Bardem movie. I wrote a couple of drafts of that before I eased out. And then we got back on Birdman, and the rest is history. 4 films, and then the rest of my film stuff. But I've done plays and Broadway and stuff as well. That's how I got there.
That's how you got there, man. So it's interesting because so many people listening right now are still, you know, working in the restaurant business, trying to get their scripts made. But you were also in New York at the time, right? So it was a little different. It's kind of like I always tell people, if you want to get hit by a car, you got to go where the traffic is.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, and New York and LA are kind of those two places. Would you agree?
I would agree. I would. I mean, eventually you have to find your way there because if you're going to creep up into a writer's room, or if you're, you know, you can write scripts from anywhere,
Sure.
and submit them. But yeah, better that you're mingling, meeting, somebody sees your stuff. Of course, your analogy is right.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it's this business in general. You always need to have like a Donnie Brasco style person, not an Italian, but I'm saying a person who vouches for you to give you some sort of credibility to open a door. Like Daniela was your fairy god, you know, father, essentially. He was the one that, and when people said, oh, if Danny's looking at him, he must be. So you just need one person to creak that door open, and then your talent will do what your talent does.
But I think that's an interesting point because those people that you say that might be listening, all of you out there that might be listening that are trying to get there or still working in the restaurant business, which I did for 24 years, by the way. I wasn't a successful writer, so I was almost 40. So, but there's also, so we don't jump straight to Danny Aiello because you could be listening to this going, well, yo, how the hell do I meet Danny Aiello? That's the problem. Yeah. But that's not how it happens either, right? How that happened was I wrote a play. I did that play in a staged reading. Mm-hmm. Somebody in the reading was a friend of my friend who was an agent, like commercial agent, a guy named Doug Keston from Paradigm. Amazing commercial agent, amazing guy, goes to theater. He loved the play. And at the time, the actor that I had in the part was going out, but he loved the play so much. He's like, can I help you, find somebody? And I was like, oh my God, that would be. At the time, by the way, I'm living in a 8-foot by 5-foot room in Brooklyn, eating Chinese food for 5 days. You know what I mean? Like terrible. And he calls me up a few days later and says, how would you feel about Danny Aiello? I'm like, were you crazy? Like that would be like,
right.
He's like, well, let's get it to him. And there's a funny story about that. I won't go into it. But my point was, it wasn't just, oh, hi, here's that Danny Aiello.
Of course. No, there's always
doing a little reading of a play in a little place with a bunch of friends. Somebody was there. He said, I liked it. So it's not just, it's about how you build relationships, how you network. And this gets back to your go where the traffic is. The more people you know, if you're doing good work, somebody notices, tell somebody else, and then you get to Danny Aiello, which gets you through the fence to whatever happens next. So there is you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 110%. The point is that, you have to just do work because you didn't write that first script thinking that you were going to get someone like a Danny Aiello to open a door for you. You were just doing the work. But I have to ask you, man, and this is something I think a lot of people listening would identify with. How did you keep going until, all those years? You said 24 years in the restaurant business. What kept you going, following the dream of being a writer and a director?
But I let it die. It was never a writer. It was always, I just wanted to direct theater. Right. I never thought I would be a writer. Right. I didn't plan on it. And so I let it die. I was very dysfunctional. I grew up in a house that was no good. I was drinking too much booze when I was too young. I lived on the street for a couple of months in New York City. Like, it was a mess, man. I couldn't have my lights on. It was bad. But I always loved it, right? I loved theater. I loved stories. I loved film, always. And then I got into the restaurant business. What happens is you sort of get numb because when you have enough to pay your bills and it just gets you enough, then you're so depressed that you're not doing what you love to do that you finish work at the restaurant at 1 and then you drink your face off till 4, and then you rinse and repeat for about what turns into 2 days to 10 years, and I did everything there was to do in a restaurant, from washing dishes and peeling shrimp to owning one, which, and general managing and all that stuff. But one day I just quit it, 2000 or something. I just quit it and ran to Florida. But then I said, I'm going to try it. So I wrote the plays and then it worked. So I didn't keep the dream alive in the middle. I just envied the dream. And it was a really depressing time for me. And still to this day, when I'm, I swear to God, like, this is my house, this is my office, this is my man cave down here. You can see I have a drum set back there somewhere.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say there's a very love
the drum set, the keyboard. Yeah.
I love that.
All my Yankees baseballs are there.
Is that a Golden Globe back there? Yeah, I think the
That's
Golden
an
Globe, the
Oscar and a
Oscar. Yeah,
Golden
the
Globe.
Oscars. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
And there's no night that I don't, or morning that I don't wake up and come down here and go, what the hell happened? Like I wake up every day, like I mean it, like super grateful, like that. Like it's crazy, you know,
No, never.
how I got from there to here. And that for anybody listening like that, like there is a road. It just takes, the road is the road, you know. And I think people get discouraged because they're like, oh, you do things, you submit them. Yeah, but you know, agents aren't reading your shit. And you're not sending them straight to a studio. Like it seems impossible, but it is, like you said, about doing the work, about having friends read, about opening up your circles to people who are more in the business. And your talent hopefully will naturally float you up, you know, toward the top. If you network enough and give your stuff enough and have good soul and help other people. And, you know, I believe that I'm living proof of the luckiest son of a bitch in the world.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I love what you're saying. It's actually really beautiful because there's so much hardship trying to get into this business. It is absolutely brutal. So arguably the most difficult business in the world to crack into. Really, you could be a brain surgeon faster, honestly.
Yeah, or more directly. That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question because there is no path. And I love when you said the path is the path, the journey is the journey, and it's different for every single person. No one else is going to write a play who then a friend sees it, then an agent sees it, then gets to a Danny Aiello caliber actor who then opens a door for you, then gets you. Nobody's going to that. And my biggest mistake coming up in the business is I just started seeing everybody else's. I was like, oh, that's how Robert Rodriguez did it. Well, maybe that's what I should do. Or that's how Kevin Smith did it because I came up in the 90s. So it's just like, yeah, and then it never works.
You hear the stories about him giving blood and raising the money for.
You're like, you know how many filmmakers I've talked to was like, yeah, I gave blood too, and I'm like, how'd that work out for you, bro? I'm still hustling, man. I'm like, that was his path. That's his path. Yeah. So you got to find that path for yourself. I think is the big thing. So you finally get to CAA. You get to meet Alejandro.
I mean, that's but
at the time, but when you met Alejandro. Was Alejandro yet, or was he just coming up?
He had just finished. No, he had just won the Golden Globe and was nominated for all the Oscars for Babel.
Oh, that's right, the Babel. He did do Babel. Also, he was already Alejandro. He was already Alejandro.
He did his first 3 movies with an unbelievably talented writer named Guillermo Arriaga, who did Amores Perros, 21 Grams, and Babel.
Right.
And then those guys parted ways. And he was looking for another writer. And this agent in New York from CAA, who Danny introduced me to Johnny. Johnny submitted my stuff to CAA. At CAA, there was a theater agent named Olivier Sultan, who's still my agent, one of my best friends. And Olivier fell in love with my play, Still Life. And crazy, because Alejandro, I think, had just moved from Paradigm to CAA, I believe. And he was looking, and he had parted ways with Guillermo. And he was looking for writers, and CAA, since he was a new client and he was, just on Babel, and he's, up and coming as one of the biggest directors. And they sent him a pile of scripts. And the way Alejandro told me the story was like, he read through 1 million scripts and called CAA and was like, it's not working. I can't find it. Went through the bottom of his pile, and there was my play, not a movie script, but my play, Still Life. And he read it, and he called up, his people at CAA and said, who the hell is that guy? I need to talk to that guy. And they called me in New York City. I'll never forget. I was in my sweatpants, eating a TV dinner off a tray with my wife, watching the Yankees play Toronto Blue Jays. See, I'll never forget it. And I got a phone call. It's like, is this Alexander? And I said, yeah. He said, this is Alejandro González Iñárritu. I read your play, Still Life. It's full of blood. I want to drink your blood. That was literally the first thing that motherfucker said to me ever. That's what he said. And my wife was swooning because she thought he was so gorgeous. She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what is happening right now? He's like, can you come to LA tomorrow? I got on a damn plane. That was a Tuesday night. I got on a plane the next day. And the next night, he and I were having dinner discussing what would become the film Beautiful. 2 days later, he called my agents and he's like, I want Alex. He's my writer. And I joined him in Spain and we wrote Beautiful.
Dude,
that's crazy.
Bro, that's insane. These are the kind of stories that are heard about in the back alleys of Hollywood. And you're like, this is what happened. This is you. It could happen for you too. They'll say these kind of stories, but that's such literally the universe was guiding you. There's just no question.
There's no other explanation. There's no other explanation.
Makes no sense. It makes
he had a pile of scripts from all these. Imagine the famous screenwriters that were in that pile.
Oh,
and then he picks out a play at the bottom by this kid from New York. Yeah. I remember somebody said to me, I forget who it was, but it might have been Alejandro recalling the story. He's like he told I forget who it was, somebody high up at CA, one of the, owner, Kevin or Brian or something.
Sure.
And he was like, Alex, I found my writer, Alex. And they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. Why didn't we think of it? That's a perfect, marriage. And then they called New York and like, who the hell is Alex Dinelaris? And they were like, oh, he's a playwright. Olivia has him. Like, get him on the phone. He needs to get on a plane. And I was like, that's how that went. And
did you ever see the movie The Big Picture with Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
It's kind of, it has a little bit of that vibe to it.
Like, that. Yeah.
Who's this guy? He's the hottest guy in town. We need to get a hold of him.
Yeah. Nobody knew me. I was brand new.
So, all right. So you fly out of Spain to meet Alejandro and start working?
No, I flew from New York to LA.
Okay. Oh, to LA. And then, when you started to work with Alejandro, as a collaboration. Well, first of all, when you went to meet him that night, dude, what is that like, bro? How do you
I can't even. I can't even tell you the joy of it. Like I'm a schmuck. I'm not making any money. But I get out there. He picks me up for dinner in his car. We go to this Italian restaurant that we still go to now. It's a little outdoor place. Doesn't look super fancy, but it's really good. The food's great. And he loves it. And they're letting him smoke out on the patio, which in LA you can imagine.
Oh, good Lord.
But we immediately hit it off, right? So we're like 3 bottles of wine in. And Alejandro, I don't know if you remember the movie Beautiful, but Alejandro gets up from the table and he's like, no. And then we're on the water and I'm going to see, you look down, dead body floating, like eyes looking away, dead body. And there's everybody eating right around us in the restaurant, but he gets so passionate and he just starts doing this. And another dead body, another, and the whole, all of a sudden, like a graveyard in the water. And I loved every minute of it. But you could just picture the people nearby going, what the hell is that guy talking? LA.
It's LA. It's just LA.
And we fell in love on our first date. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And so let me ask you, working with someone like Alejandro, who's obviously a genius, he's an absolute genius. Mm-hmm. What are some of the lessons you learned as a writer working with him specifically on that first project? And then we'll get to Birdman.
Well, the first project was amazing because here I am in this whirlwind that I go to Spain, to Barcelona, where that movie takes place. And it's about street people, African immigrants who sell the purses and the videotapes, like a big part of the story. And the story is Javier Bardem has 2 kids and he's dying and he has no place to leave them. His wife is sort of bipolar and he doesn't have family and he doesn't have money. And this whole thing is about
very uplifting.
It's so sad. What do I do with this? What do I do with these kids? So we went to Barcelona for a week or 2. We did the research. We interviewed. We went to the little apartments of these people and how hard they work and how tough they live. It was really, and then saw sites and, you sort of got what we needed. And then he said, make it your own, now make it your own. And I went back. I moved to Barcelona for about a month. My wife was my best partner, my wife, Nyla. And she was like, just go, because I wanted to be there. It was so about the streets of Barcelona. So I lived there and I just typed it out and I handed it to Alejandro and he said to me, like, this is not what I wanted. And I was like, I thought he was kidding at first. And he was like, no, all of a sudden he sounded sad. And I was like, oh shit. Like he means this. And we did all the work together. We talked about and he said, I'm going to go to Mexico. I'm going to write a few scenes and then I'll send them to you and you'll see more of the tone. And I was like, oh my God, it's for real. And I remember sitting on a couch. And I got to admit, I was crying. Like
I would be too.
My wife was just, and I was just so sad. Not only because it was Alejandro, but because like I felt so strongly about what I had done. No, the story. Then he sent me some scenes and I realized, oh no, I'm not. I liked him. We liked each other so much. And I'm like, I can't write that story. So I talked to Nyla, I talked to my agents. And then finally one night I got on the phone with Alejandro and I was like, brother, I can't write this. You're a genius and this movie is going to be amazing, but I'm not your guy. And I'll make it worse because I don't believe that isn't my understanding. And I'm too close after a month with these people that I wrote. But you can use everything I wrote. And I'm sorry. He's like, well, Guillermo and I used to hammer it out. And I'm like, yeah, if I thought we were close, but we're not close. And I'm just going to hurt your movie. And it was funny because Alejandro was the only guy that understood. Like, I remember the night, I think he'll recount it the same way. We both were really sad about it. We were like, we knew it was strictly about the work, and he respected that. And I respected him so much. And that was it. And I didn't talk to him again until he was going to do the premiere, which not a premiere, a screening at the Soho House in New York. And he invited me, and I was so nervous. I brought my friend Olivier, my agent, just to hold his leg because I was so nervous. And everybody was there, like Julian Schnabel was there, and Alfonso was there. And I watched the movie, and a lot of the stuff for the father and the kids stuff was still had my stuff and spirit in it. And so that relieved me a little bit. And then the other stuff was the other stuff. And he was so nice about it. And we had lunch the next day, and he said, what did you think? I was like, what am I supposed to say? I was like, it's a beautiful movie. I still stand where I stood before. I think when it focuses on this thing, I feel more of that. When it doesn't, I sort of don't. And like my reps and people stopped talking to me for a little while because they thought, here's this new guy, and he's a vain, crazy, difficult. And I was none of those things, but they didn't know that. Alejandro knew that. And sorry to make this story longer than it should be.
No, go ahead.
But so I resigned from the film. I'm the first name on special credits. I remember sitting with my friend Brad Fryman watching a clip of Javier on the Oscars that year. And I was standing with my buddy Brad, who's an actor, who's standing right next to me. I'll never forget. And they were showing the clip of Javier because he was nominated for Best Actor for that. And I said, look at that, Brad. I said, that's the closest I'm ever going to get to an Academy Award right there. Like that thing. And Brad was like, get a whiskey. Like I was screwed.
I'm buying.
Yeah. And then, so my agents, were not pleased, and understandably, but they didn't hear the whole story. And then I used to write in Puerto Rico. I used to write on the West Coast in Isabela whenever I went to go write. And I was working on a musical of The Bodyguard, of all things, the Lawrence Kasdan movie. And I was doing a musical for England. And I got there, and I got a call from Alejandro, and he said, Tocayo, he said, I have an idea. It's a comedy, dark comedy in one take, and I want you to write it with me. And I said, man, nothing would make me happier. We have unfinished business, and I would love that. And he said, do you mind? Because the guys who replaced me were Nico and Armando on Beautiful. They're the ones who are credited with Alejandro. He's like, do you mind if I bring this guy Nico in with me? And I was like, this mother, yeah, sure. What am I going to say? No. But then I got a call from my agent who was like, hey, I heard you. I was like, yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
It's understandable. It's understandable.
Hey, buddy, pal. How are you doing?
I heard you had a kid 2 years ago. But like I said, I understand it. I really do. So then we flew to New York. I met Nico, and it took Nico and I one day to become brothers. Mm-hmm. And then Nico and I were writing Birdman. And then Armando came in, was helping the story, and Alejandro, had the idea, and that's how that happened in the craziest way. We ended up working on Birdman, and that's how that story went. So I guess I risked everything. I didn't mean to. I don't know if I went back in time now, I probably wouldn't have done it again. And my wife was a champ for standing by my side, as was my agent Olivier, because you imagine how crazy that sounds.
Well, yeah, man, brother, man, that is a hell of a story, because you get your shot with arguably, one of the greatest directors of his time, of his generation. And everyone knew he was going in that direction, without question. And you decide to have in Hollywood integrity, as I put it out in quotes, integrity. Yeah. For the story, like, it sounds insane. This is Hollywood talking. This is a Hollywood thing. That's how the agents looked at it. But Alejandro understood where you were going with it.
Alejandro
and respected it. And respected it because you're right. Because a Hollywood director, a Hollywood writer who might have not had the same sensibility as you, would have been like, "This is my shot. I'm gonna hammer it out with him." and it might have made the film worse, but you outed out. You said, this is not going to work.
I probably should have, but I did. I just respected him so much, and I was like, I'm not going to get in the way of this genius. Like, I'm going to write that badly. I'm going to write that badly, and this is my first shot. And you know, like I said, I don't know if I do the same thing again today. I'd like to think I would. I was making no money at the time when I quit. You know, I had 2 plays off Broadway in New York, which pays you all about $25,000-$30,000 in total. In some of the biggest off-Broadway theaters in New York, by the way. And they still, you know, there's no money in it. And, you know, my wife was making all the money at that time. She calls me her startup now to this day.
Oh, that's I love that.
Yeah, she does. But she stood by me. But yeah, Alejandro knew what I was saying. And I was saying, I'm not going to get in the way of your vision of this film. And nobody else got it, but he got it, and then came right back to me. And now we've done 4 together. We're still doing stuff together. We're brothers. I love him. So it just worked out.
Man, it definitely worked out the way it's supposed to work out for you. And and the thing that's great about it is looking in from the inside out, from outside in, it's insanity, but from the inside out, it makes all the sense in the world.
Sort of. Yeah.
Looking back.
Yes, looking back.
Looking back at the moment when you're in it, not so much.
No.
Now I have to tell you about Birdman, man. I was that year. I heard about Birdman, and obviously it looked really interesting, and I was a fan of Alejandro, and I watched it, and I'll never forget my first impression of Birdman. I turned to my wife and I said, "Oh my God, that's what a director is. I haven't seen a director really direct, and have such a clear vision in such a long time." And that's not a slight on any other director. Just at that moment, his vision was so vivid for that film. And it just was like he took you by the nose and carried you through the entire movie and the performances and the one shot. And I'm like, what is going on? When you're writing that with him, it's an insane story.
Yeah.
Everything is a little bit like, it's insane. The characters are all over the place, meaning that like there's so many different things going on in that story. How did you keep it all? I guess that's why you needed 3 to 4 writers on it to kind of keep it all in check. Tell me.
Alejandro had a strong vision of what it was. Sure. He had a very strong vision. And Armando is a director as well, and a very good one at that. They tend to be story guys. I mean, Alejandro's generating a story, and Nico and I are the sort of writing guys. Like, how do we make that? How do we put that into, you know, exterior St. James Theater, New York City? I think, like I said, Nico and I had became inseparable, and we were finishing each other's thoughts, and we're 2 very different kind of writers. Like, I don't know if you saw it. Nico has a really quirky, great film called John in the Hole. That was at Con. It was in the right in the pandemic, but
right.
Nico is an absurdist at heart. He's an abstractionist, and I'm dialogue, action, conflict. And together that's what Birdman is, right? Either you have Michael Keaton and Emma Stone and you're not important, blah, 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 get used to it. Or you have him eating bologna going, I don't know, this play is chasing me around with a tiny hammer, hitting me in the balls, or Birdman flying. And that's Nico. And the 2 of us just loved each other's styles, even though we don't write in each other's styles. So we would laugh, you know. So I think, speaking for myself, I mean, I know Alejandro, I'll tell you a million ways why Alejandro's a genius. But speaking for myself, in this particular style played right into my strength as a playwright, right?
Of course, yeah.
Long dialogue scenes, clever, keeps moving. It's not elliptical. For me, it was like going home, you know, to my plays. And I love that. So I focused on that. Nico focused on the more esoteric, and Alejandro is a master of both. He's a master of the 50-50 and 2 people in a room going at each other, and he's a master of the visual epic sweep move. But I think the best thing I can say about my partner Alejandro is that his guts just don't lie to him. he knows in a way, like when he and Chivo, our DP, Emmanuel,
Oh, of course.
when him and Chivo are standing there and working it out, you just sit back and I don't know what to say. You just sit with your mouth shut and watch. It's a stunning thing to see happen. Their instincts are so pure and have adrenaline in them all by themselves. And that's what, for me, the best. What Birdman to you was what Goodfellas was to me when I saw it.
Oh
He
God,
just yanked you into this world.
oh,
And then you're in this world and you just don't get out of it. It's just strap in and go. And I feel like Alejandro, outside of the writing, I'm just talking about his direction, did that. Like Birdman, whether you like it or love it, and people love it and people hate it. Like I get both. I really do. But for the people who love it, I think it feels like that. You got pulled into this ride and it's dark and it moves and you just don't know what's happening. It doesn't feel familiar in a way, which is, really lovely, I think.
And rare these days.
And rare. Yeah, I felt it last year about that, about Everything Everywhere, which wasn't my favorite film, but I certainly loved it. But it felt like, oh, shit, yes, right. Two rocks or boulders are speaking to each other. That's perfection. Like,
are those hot dog hands? Hot dog fingers?
Right, hot dog hands. Why wouldn't they be? Sure.
Sure.
Get to the bagel. We're good.
Yeah, and don't even get me started. I mean, I had the Daniels on before they were the Daniels. Yeah. And just hearing the story of how I'm like, you guys are insane. It's insane. That movie's insane. It was so wonderful. It was such a wonderful film as well.
Yeah.
And speaking of Chivo, I mean, Chivo had a run there of three Oscars in a row.
Gravity, Alejandro Birdman, had and Revenant. Yeah.
Not a bad run. And then Alejandro had back-to-back Oscars for Best Director, which I don't know if has that happened before.
It has, I think, once or twice before. I remember.
It's a rarity. It's definitely not something that happens often. No. Working when you're saying this thing, when you're watching Chivo and Alejandro working on set, and they just know that they trust their gut. It sounds to me like they're just that thing that all of us creatives do when we try to connect to the ether, to connect to the source of whatever creativity is. It seems like they have a very strong connection to it and they trust it implicitly. Like they just, because a lot of times as a writer or as a director, you second guess. You kind of like, oh, maybe not. It sounds like these guys are like, boop, 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 boop. It's like watching the Beatles writing a song in those documentaries, just like they're firing on all cylinders.
Yes. That's I've been in the room. I mean, I've been privileged to be in the room. It's crazy. And I think I want to be clear because I know and have been friendly with Alejandro, Alfonso, Guillermo del Toro, Chivo. I'll say this, if the world's still around in 50 years, there are going to be full chapters in film books about these three guys.
Oh, absolutely.
In that period of time. And they make very different movies, but they all come from the same place. What they're going to call the Mexican cinema of the aughts is this passionate, like, it's not the genius of Paul Thomas Anderson or the genius of the Coens, which are, of course, massive geniuses. But the difference in style with the Mexicans, for me, is this lead by the gut, balls out. The mistakes are part of the, like I watched Todd's movie, the with Kate, Tar.
Oh yeah.
Like it's perfection. I don't mean the story or anything. I just mean it's constructed in a way that's so perfect. And it's super wonderful. Our guys aren't like that. They're, even when it's choreographed to an inch of its life, the mistakes are part of the joy of it. The car chase, famous car chase in City of Men, Guillermo and his sequence in Pan's Labyrinth that keeps cutting back and forth. Like, they just do things, and it's the totality of their instinct that is what's right, not the perfection of what they're doing. Their stuff is pretty unbelievable, but you know what I mean? And I think that's what this moment and those guys have in common. This instinct, like you said, this barometer that just takes them the right way, or it takes them somewhere.
Right. I mean, you look at
Guillermo, get on or get off.
Yeah, look at Guillermo's stuff. I mean, it's so Guillermo. Like
Yeah.
there's no one else on the planet who can make a film like that.
No.
Like, and those are the best kind of filmmakers. Are you can't see anyone else making Avatar, regardless.
Agreed.
You can't see anyone else making ET. Like you just can't see that. It's not possible. It's the DNA is so mixed in that, they'll make it like Spielberg could make a Goodfellas, but it's not going to be Marty's Goodfellas,
No.
And Marty could have made Jaws.
Right.
It's just not going to be the same.
Yeah, that's right. That's 100% right.
Working with Alejandro now on so many projects, what is like the biggest lesson you've learned as a writer working with him?
He has a bullshit meter where you can write something really, really great, and writers, we usually hate 90% of what we write, but you'll find something and say, oh, that's really great. And he's like, yeah, it's really good, really good. I'm not going to use it because I can do that whole thing you just did if I just do this with the camera and go there, but it's great, nice idea. What else do we have? And you're like, wait, I spent 3 weeks. Like, what are you talking about? And then you watch it and you're like, yep, he was right. Like they have an amazing way to get past. Alejandro has an amazing, it's his truth meter. He just knows if it feels, right or wrong, or whether it's an image or a line. He has what? He comes from music. Like Alejandro is very much from music.
Right.
I think he was I was in the restaurant business. I think he was a DJ. But music means a lot to him, and that's how I think that's his paradigm. He sees everything as this sort of rhythm and music, and whether it's time for a dissonant note or harmony, he'll know sort of. But that's what it feels like. And he's taught me to lean more on, like, stop being so polished and stop saying everything. Get down to the center of it. And he's made me better. I mean, he made me better instantly with Birdman, and even Scenes in Beautiful that survived. He just makes me better.
Now, I always like asking this question from people who've won Oscars. What was it like being in the center of the storm that was Birdman? The whole pomp and circumstance. You're going to award show after award show, and everyone's, you're the best, you're the greatest. This destroys most people. It does in Hollywood. We've seen it 1,000 times. How did you deal with being in the middle of this whole hurricane? Essentially, it's the eye of the storm. Essentially.
Well, I think the greatest thing about being a screenwriter is that nobody knows who you are.
That's true. That's kind of true.
You have to tell somebody. I was funny. I was at a funeral of my great aunt. She was like 100 and something years old. God bless her. And I was at a funeral, and somebody I hadn't seen in 20 years, my Armenian side of the family, came up to me at the funeral. I was like, oh my God, you're famous. I said, I'm not famous. They're like, you're famous. We saw you in the Oscar. I said, I'm not famous. I said, what's your favorite movie that you ever saw in your whole life? And she said, Shawshank Redemption. I said, who wrote it? She went, I said, what's your second favorite movie of all time? She was like, Casablanca. I was like, who wrote it? Like, nobody knows. Like, only movie people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So screenwriters, you're under the radar. Plus there was me, Nico, Armando. Like, we were all sneaking under Alejandro. Everybody's looking for him as the director, as the auteur, naturally. So it wasn't that crazy. So we had the joy of being able to be part of it and still be able to enjoy it with our wives. And like, we had a ball at the Golden Globes. We were getting drunk at the table. We had a ball. Like, the whole time we just had a ball, because it wasn't real. We weren't under any pressure at all.
Right.
So it was fine. Like, I was there. I'll show you. I don't know if I can go get it for you, but it's hysterical. I have a photo. This is
Please go get it. Go get it.
All right, hold on a second. If you go to whatever, YouTube, wherever you watch
sure.
Birdman winning Best Picture or whatever.
Yeah.
We had one screenplay, amazing. Alejandro had one director, Chivo won. We were hoping Michael would win. I'm still sad.
Oh, I know. That's still, yeah.
But so we had done our thing, and then Best Picture. So Best Picture, you win, and everybody goes up on stage. So now we're up there with Emma and Ed Norton, and all the. I'm like, nobody's looking at me. Like Arna Milchan, Jim Scotchball, the great producer, and I'm standing up there. I'm like, well, literally nobody at home or in this theater is looking at me. So you can see it in the YouTube video. I reach into my pocket and I take out my phone and I just go like, I don't aim. I just go like this. And I, turn that camera really fast. One click, I put it right back in my pocket. I'm like, I probably got, somebody's feet, but I had to try it. Well, the picture that came out of my phone was this.
Wow.
Can you see that?
Look. Oh my God! Everyone who's listening, you got to go onto YouTube and look at this.
Well, you won't see this picture though.
That is amazing.
So Alejandro's holding the Oscar and the godlight that's coming right down on it. You see it? And there's like Jared Leto and Clint Eastwood, and my wife is out here in front of Harvey Weinstein and Anna Wintour in the red dress.
Oh, good Lord!
But I got that photo.
Did you give that to? I'm assuming you gave that to Alejandro.
I didn't give it to anybody. He asked me for it. I was like, nope, that's mine. You want to visit it? Come to my house. But it was a wonderful moment of an example of like I was just enjoying it. I was just, and there's it's so crazy, man. I would show you some other stuff if we were on the video, because there's a video of my friends who are all gathered in New York City in a basement, 50 of my best friends.
Yeah.
And when we win, that's the only thing that ever made me cry that year was they sent me that night at 4 a.m. or whatever.
Oh.
There's a video of them nervous, and then Eddie Murphy says Birdman, and they
erupt.
Erupt and cry and laugh, and they had won it, and it made me so emotional. It's still one of my favorite moments.
My God, brother, it
was fun.
It's fun. Now, after you win the Oscar, then of course everybody in town you're an Oscar winner now. You're an Oscar-winning screenwriter. Everybody, how did the town treat you? Did it treat you differently? Did it treat you the same? I mean, you're not a kid, so I think you can handle whatever comes your way a bit better than if you were 20 and gotten that.
Yeah, and I also lived through, not so great times. So I'm right. Like I said, I'm generally grateful. Things change. The jobs become different. You make your agent's job easier because they can go out and say, it wasn't. There were 4 of us credited on the film, so but offers started coming differently. And then once I got on Zooms with people, they understood who I or in-person meetings, they understood who I was. Then it definitely created more work, obviously a little bit more money, and I don't have to pitch stuff as much anymore. I can if it's personal, but the biggest advantage is people come to you and say, hey, how about this? And, I tend to want to work with like not young, but new filmmakers. Makes me happy. Like I just did Carmen, which is out now with Benjamin Millepied. That was his first feature, and he has an amazing eye. I'm doing with Residente, with Renee, I'm doing the Puerto Rico film because I love still searching for it. And then occasionally I'll do the, film Alejandro talking about doing something else now, but I'll do the other ones as well. But I get to a little more ability to choose what I want to do and not have to hustle, as it were, as much as I used to. Thank God, because I'm 55, so I don't know how to have the energy for it.
Brother, you're telling me about it, man. It's getting tough out here to hustle. Keep that hustle going. when you wake up and you hear things popping and creaking, and you're like, what the hell, man?
Don't even. Yeah. Wake up and limp to the bathroom.
So the startup paid off for your wife, essentially, is what it's
yeah. She was smart. She's still the smart one.
Yeah, my wife called me the not an investment, but not an endowment, but some sort of financial instrument that pays off years later.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And she's like, "Oh, it's finally starting to pay off." It's like it's only taken, it's a long-term investment. This one, was
how old are you?
I'm 48.
Oh, you're 48.
I'm 48.
Look at you.
It was baby. Stop with the baby and the baby.
Years.
You and I walked over the same dead body, sir. Okay, so please. And Alejandro was shooting them, and then a dead body,
same time.
And then a dead body, and then the body.
That's right.
So you worked also as a co-producer on The Revenant. which is again another. I mean, he was just nailing these things back to back to back. I was just like, what is this man on? And can I get some? Like, it was remarkable. You worked as a co-producer. I'm assuming you helped a little bit on the back end with the writing or polishing, or was just producing?
Nico and I helped with the story a little bit, and we helped. We advised on that sort of thing, and we're close to him when he needed us during that period.
Were you on set?
Nico went to set. I was in New York. I was working on my musical, and I was working with Guillermo on something at the time, so I didn't get to go. But Nico went, and it was crazy, all the stories. And I would get the phone calls. But that's just another example of those two mania. I don't think he'll ever do that. Like that. I mean, he just did Bardo, which is insane. But like Revenant was like 3 hours of light. They're using all natural light. It's 4 degrees. They run out of snow. They got to go to Patagonia. Leo's going, methoding his way like a madman. Like he wanted to live it all. Like he ate it up and lived that. I mean, I'm so glad he won for that, because that was a piece of his.
He literally was going to kill himself until they gave him an Oscar. For God's sake, someone give him an Oscar.
He tried to kill himself in Revenant. I mean, he might as well have. He was in the freezing water. He's eating buffalo liver. Like, the guy's a maniac, and an incredible actor. And I'm so glad they rewarded him. But that was everybody just, whatever, risking life and limb to make a film. And I think you can see it in the imagery. I think you can see it in the film.
I mean, the when I heard the stories coming out from the set, and I had a few friends of mine who worked here, and I would hear stories. I'm like, this can't be like 3 hours of natural light. I mean, I know it's Chivo, and and Chivo I trust, but geez, like, and it's freezing, and it's great. What's the craziest story that you can share publicly that you heard? We'll talk about the non-public.
The hard part, the hard part is what we can say publicly.
Because I heard is that there was a ringing of a bell or something like that, or a siren once a day to remind everybody why they were doing something like that.
That's an Alejandroism. I don't know. I'm trying to think of what, because there's a lot of really good stories. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, so I'm not going to refrain from that question.
Okay, well, after we stop recording, you can tell. Offline, you can tell it to me.
Offline, but
I'm telling you, one day I'm going to start a show.
I'm
going to start a show one day and just record the things I get when recording stuff, because they're the best stories ever, man.
That's going to be the end of your career.
No. I'll do that when I'm like 90 and everyone's dead already.
Yeah, very good. Make sure I'm dead.
Yeah, no, of course.
But there were a lot of crazy stories, and a lot of it had to do with, jumping into ice cold rivers, people thermal, doctors on set, like how hard they pressed. Look, all you have to think about is, if we talk about that window of light, if anybody here has ever made a film, and you think about how much a setup is and what it takes, and if you think about that sort of opening sequence of The Revenant, even in cuts, that battle scene, even if you contemplate it in cuts and try to understand how that was all orchestrated within windows of time that would provide light, it would seem insurmountable. Like, how they did it, I have no idea.
It is a masterpiece, to say the least, my friend.
Yeah.
Now you have also been directing as well. You've directed features. You've directed. You've directed a feature already, right?
I haven't directed my full length
shorts.
I directed a long short, about 35 minutes, called In This Our Time, based on a play I wrote. I'm set up to direct my first feature, which is actually the adaptation of the play I told you Alejandro read to find me in the first place, which is a play called Still Life.
Yeah.
We're just trying to tie up the actors. I have the genius DP, Luca Bigazzi, who did La Grande Bellezza and the Young Pope. I mean, he's a monster, and he read it and loved it, and has told me he wants to do it. I have a really great production designer, David Rockwell, here in New York, who designs all of New York. It's a very New York piece. And we're just trying to sew up the actors. We have the financing, and God willing, I'll be able to announce something soon. And hopefully next year we'll finally shoot it.
Now, from the experience you have had on set as a director, there's always that day that we all feel like the entire world's coming crashing down around us. I'm assuming that was every second on Revenant, but
Yeah, yeah.
what was that day for you, and how did you overcome it?
I think that was my first day. I had some.
Yeah.
I had three excellent actors. We had a scene that was in a bar with two terrific actors, an intimate scene, dialogue heavy, hard, and I had a DP who was excellent. Who his name is Barry Markowitz. I'll say it. He's great. He shot Crazy Heart with
Oh
Bridges.
yeah.
He shot
Oh
Sling
God, it's
Blade. He
beautiful.
shot The Apostle
Oh
with
yeah.
Duvall.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
did this job for me for like, $8 and a sandwich,
Hmm.
because he liked the script and he wanted to work together. He's a great guy. But he's a big personality and he was on set. And then I had these producers that were wandering around on set and I just didn't have control of it. And it was my first day on any sort of feature, short or long, short film. But it was my first day and I didn't know how to stand up and how to take control, and things just spiraled one by one. People started in the vacuum in my absence. They started making decisions that were contradictory, and it was a whole thing. Um, and we got through it, and we got good takes out of it, thank God. But the next day, I thought long and hard about it that night. And the next morning, I got the whole set together. I said, whatever went wrong yesterday is all on me, but it's not happening again. And this is how it's going to go. And they responded. My whole crew was amazing. And I think they were grateful to hear it. So it really
Right.
is a lesson for me. Because when I'm directing theater, I'm entirely comfortable. But I think my self doubt about, I'm not going to talk to you. I don't understand the full ramification of a lens choice. Like I understand the basics, but
Hmm.
I don't understand the full ramifications of it. And I felt like since I didn't, I wanted to defer. But then when you defer too much, it falls down around you. So I learned right away that you just want to be specific about, look, this should feel claustrophobic. This should feel like you can't escape the cage of this table. And then your cinematographer says, okay, in that case, we're going to use this and and all of a sudden and they're lighting and they're like, now we have. So it's really, even if you don't know the specifics, as long as you know the action of the scene, the feeling of the scene, what you want from it, and you have good people and you explain that, you find things get better. But my first day felt like a landslide getting away from me, and it was a horrible, helpless feeling. Thank God I
Oh, it
survived.
is.
Thank
It
God.
is. It is. It's brutal, my friend. It's brutal.
Yeah,
And trying to make your day. Oh,
yeah, it's a
every day
lot.
that dragon is just coming after you. Every second that comes down, lights going down.
Yeah,
OT, you gotta. Oh no, I can't go into OT. We can't
can't
afford
go
OT.
to no.
No, 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 no. It's
Yeah,
it's brutal, man. Now I have to ask you because I am of Cuban descent, sir,
yes.
and I have to ask you what it was like working with the legendary Gloria Estefan.
Gloria and Emilio.
I mean, Gloria and Emilio. I grew up in Miami. I remember when Miami Sound Machine hit. Dude, it was a phenomenon in
Yeah,
the 80, 85,
yeah. I
86.
try to explain to people, and the young people don't
It
understand.
was just a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And funny side note, my first job in Miami as an editor was for the director of all of those early music videos.
Oh, really? That's
Like
great.
Rhythm's Gonna Get You, Get on Your Feet. I'm not sure if he did I don't think he did
Dr. B.
Conga. I think
Oh,
he did Dr.
Conga.
B. I don't think he did Conga, but he was there. So he, and everybody who works in
Is that
Miami in the film
Kenny?
industry.
Is that Kenny
No,
Ortega?
Errol,
Oh,
Errol,
Errol.
Errol. Anyway,
Yeah, it was.
so it was, I growing up, man, like when Conga hit, like it was a phenomenon. It was an
Yeah, it was nuts.
absolute phenomenon. It was
Every
nuts.
wedding and bar mitzvah in the country, still every
And still,
ballpark.
still everyone busted
It,
out.
it was that was a little crazy for me. I so by the way, for the record, you're talking about the Broadway musical I wrote On Your Feet for them about their life
Correct.
story, and now you'll be happy to know that we're working on the film version now. So that should be really fun.
Hmm.
Um, It was amazing. I met them. My friend Nick Scandelius, who's a producer for the Nederlander organization on Broadway, had seen a reading of The Bodyguard that I had written, the other musical for the West End, and I guess he knew I was Latino or half Latino, and he saw that I had done like what they call a jukebox musical with Whitney's music. He said, "Will you come down to Miami?" And I said, "I don't think I'm gonna." I was busy and like I don't think I'll be able to do it. And he's like, "Just come down and talk to them. So you need to know what it'd be like." And I went down and I talked to them, and for me it was something else too. Like I grew up like I have a very funny story.
I mean, yes,
I have a funny story about Gloria. But
off air, sir. That's another off air.
I can tell that one on
okay,
air.
Go ahead.
We've talked about that story. First of all,
okay.
I love them, and they're like family to me. Like I love them. Emilio, the whole family. Emily and Naib as well. So I met her and Emilio, and they were talking about it. I said, "Well, if it was me, I would tell the writer who's going to do this, and I would say this." Because I did all the research. I read their books. They sent me all the DVDs. I did the bio, and I said, "Oh, and if it was me, I would tell the writer." And somehow I got to the end of it, and Gloria's like, "You keep saying you're going to tell the writer," but she's like, "I want you to be the writer." And I was like, "Gloria, I told Nick I'm just not sure." I was doing Revenant. I was helping with Revenant at the time. I was doing some things. I was like, "I'm just not." And she's like, "Well, blah, blah." And by the time we were done, we were in the parking lot. And Gloria's, she's not giant in a height manner.
She's giant in other ways.
In almost every other way. Her heart is giant, and her personality is giant, and her talent is giant. But she's short. And I remember her in the parking lot of their offices in Miami looking up at me. And she's like, "Your mother's part Cuban, right?" I was like, "Yeah." And she just looked at me. She went, "Don't disappoint her." And I was like, "Coño, what do I do now?" I was like, "What?" I got to the airport and I called my agent. I said, "I think I'm doing the Estefan musical." And he was like, "Really?" I was like, "I think I'm doing it." Because the minute I told my mother, I would have been done.
That was a very mafioso style way.
She went full on me. She went full. And thank God she did, because it turned out to be one of my favorite experiences. We're still friends to this day. She's a beautiful human being. The story I tell, which is slightly embarrassing, oh God, is that I went to her. At her house, she has this place she calls the Lair. And she was.
Is this the one on Star Island? Is that they still live there? Yeah.
Yeah. So they have a side house, and it has this loft, and that's where all the computers and stuff is. And she was doing this like vlog, this sort of, and she invited me to be on to talk about On Your Feet. So I went. We didn't know each other that well then, and we were just talking, and she was like, "Oh, we were talking about the musical and doing research," and she's like, "No, it's like this video of which videos did she show me?"
Like a music video that she did?
A music video. It was one of the later ones, a little ballad, but she's in the white shirt with the black, with the tight. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I was thinking because I'm 55 years old, but I looked at it and I was like, "Oh my God, I had the biggest crush on you." As if I just remembered. And then I realized, oh shit, I'm sitting with Gloria Estefan. I don't want to sound like a creep.
And you didn't say that out loud.
I said it out loud with my mouth hole right to her. I immediately must have turned like brick red. And I was like, "I don't mean that in the best." She's like, "Darling, I will take it anywhere I can get it." Like, I was like,
oh my
God. It came right out of my mouth. So I was looking at her going, "Oh, I remember being
like really attracted to you
when I was teenage years." Yeah. In my teenage years, being really attracted to you.
You and me both, brother. There's nothing, there's no shame. She was Gloria Estefan.
She's still gorgeous now. She's gorgeous.
I mean, are you kidding?
We had a ball, and God, did my mother ever win it all, right? Because she got to go to all the premieres. I think my mother has seen that show more than me and Gloria. I think it's possible. Like my mother has seen that show. Like it goes to Miami. She sees it. They're playing a little tiny theater up in Jupiter. She went to go see.
Listen. I was when I was coming up in Miami, I was an editor, and I was editing basically commercials and music videos and things, all the big stuff that was going on down in Miami. And I got to work I did a lot of stuff for Univision and Telemundo and that kind of stuff too. And I did one with Don Francisco. I did a commercial with Don Francisco from Salvador Gigante.
Yeah.
Bro, if I tell you, when I told my parents that I haven't met Don Francisco, I'm editing a commercial with Don Francisco.
No.
The entire Cuban family knew that, like, oh my God, Alex is famous.
Yeah. That's right.
Alex is people in Havana knew that I was
Yeah. You can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, you can imagine when I brought my family back to,
Oh, can you imagine?
to see
To meet
Gloria.
her. Oh
Yeah.
my God, that must have been like.
And she's the sweetest. Like, I
I've
can't even
heard.
explain. I can't even explain it. She's so loving. She's such a good person. It didn't matter who you brought, because when we were on Broadway in the Marquee Theater, there was this little, it's very funny. There's this little room they put aside that they had a little bar, and Emilio would just be making, rum and cokes for me and him. And like, we all like, it was a party in that room. That room that Gloria called the G spot, by the way. That was her name. That was her name for the thing. She said, most men can't find it, so we'll be here on our own.
Wow.
Gloria's joke. It was very funny. But we used to stay there, and it didn't matter. Like, one time I had this lady who took care of our kids, and she was a Caribbean lady, Doris, and she was just a ginormous Gloria fan. And I was like, I got it. So I brought her. And Gloria has a room full of important people, but she spends 15 minutes of a 30-minute or 20-minute intermission talking to these two. And I'm like, this lady, that's how good this lady, and Emilia is the same. Like, they're just the most approachable, lovely human beings they ever want to meet.
Dude, my father was telling me, like, he used to see Gloria and Emilio like at like malls trying to get their, like, playing music before they just trying to get themselves up off the ground. And they're like, we know, we saw them coming up. And then that's when Conga hit. Then
they were playing weddings and bar mitzvahs in Miami while they were selling out arenas in South America. It was crazy. The story is crazy.
Because they weren't famous here yet.
Because they weren't famous here yet. Yeah, you got to see the either the musical when it comes by, or I'll take you next time it's there. It comes around all the time.
Oh my God, my friend, it's amazing. Yeah. Oh God. Oh my God, are you kidding me? So I'm going to ask you a few questions to ask all my guests, my friend.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for a screenwriter trying to break into the business today?
Trying to make it worthwhile and not cliched. I think don't try to write for somebody else, because most people out there are doing that. So if you write with your own personality, like, your talent is your talent. Nobody knows how talented you are or aren't. Nobody knows. People will make choices on what they think your work is, but they just don't know. So the one thing I say is original voices tend to find their way through. The one advantage a screenwriter has that other disciplines of the arts don't have is if you write original good scripts, solidly structured, good characters, solid dialogue, if you write that, you're gonna work. If you get anywhere near a door and get through it, you're gonna work. As opposed to an actor, you're like, well, you have that mole on your face, you're 5'7", I need 5'11", writers, it's like substance wins more than anything else. So be yourself as much as you can, because the minute you try to write like what you think they want to hear, you have 70 other writers out of 80 doing the same thing, and you can't stand out, and it won't matter because that's not your talent. That's you imitating somebody else's talent. So I would say try to be true to yourself, hear your voice, don't fake it, and don't manipulate your characters. Like, don't be objective to them when you're writing a scene. That was a big thing for me. Well, it is put yourself in their place. Don't say he says to her or she says to him. Don't look at it from out here. Take his point of view, hear her, feel what you feel, write that, take her point of view, feel what you feel. You have to be a little bit of a method actor about it when you're writing scenes and dialogue. And then, of course, as much of Aristotle as you can digest is amazing. Action, conflict, reverse, and, surprising inevitability. And those things are crucial. And you'd be shocked how many times you don't see them in a scene when you ask a writer, well, who wants what from whom? Who has the action in the scene? And and you're like, well, that's why it's not popping right there. So that's my best advice, really, I think.
If you had a chance to go in a time machine and go back in time and talk to that little guy at the beginning of your life, what advice would you give him?
So, hold on. Hold on. I know how bad it is. I know you can't believe it, but this crazy thing is going to happen if you just keep holding on. And And I would have said that to myself as a little kid, and I would have said that to myself as a teenager, and I would have said to myself at age 24, like when it was dark, just hang on and keep believing and keep being good to people and try to be good to yourself. That's what I would have told them.
And obviously don't walk off of beautiful.
And please don't walk off a set with a famous director on your first film in Hollywood, you pompous idiot. I would have said that too.
What is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film industry or in life?
In life, I'm still learning it, which is to forgive myself. Um, I'm super hard on myself. My inner monologue is horrifying.
Mm.
I'm trying to fix that, every day. I have two little kids now. I have an 11 and a 12 and a 9, Amalia and Elena. But I've been terrible to myself. And I need to not be. In the industry, it was be passionate, inspire people, don't impress them, right? Sometimes
That's
we
good.
try
That's
to
good.
impress somebody, but you don't want to impress them. Like when I talk about somebody asking me about a film, I say, well, I would do it this way. I speak the same way I'm speaking to you now. I'm like, I will here. I'm a little like Alejandro. Maybe that's why we got along, because that's how I describe scripts. So inspire people, don't try to impress them. And then finally, I do have to say it. Those simple Aristotelian principles have carried me so far. The idea of surprising the inevitable conclusions to beat scenes, entire films. Holy shit, I can't believe that happened. Of course that happened, right? That if I was paying attention, I would have known. And you think about your favorite sort of narrative films, and you're going to find that Pan's Labyrinth, right? Holy shit, I can't believe she's down. Oh, of course, I wasn't, everything
That's
from
the best. Yeah.
Usual Suspects to The Godfather to Birdman. Of course, holy shit, of course, if you were paying attention, you would have seen it. That rule carries you a long way if you can write cleverly into it. The thing I told you about manipulating your scenes, about being outside them when they talk, that's a big deal. And action and conflict. So though I don't think it's funny behind the, I'm not going to get up again, but this is all navy blue because there's a movie screen in here, but behind the Oscar, and it's a navy blue cover, is my Poetics, my Aristotle's Poetics. I keep it right behind the Oscar to remind myself that thing has that's nothing but luck and the grace of God and a gift for my family. But what's behind that was what got me to have a chance at that lottery, was that book that's behind it. And it meant it changed my life. And I didn't start as a writer. I became one, and that was it.
And the hardest question of all, my friend, 3
Yes.
of your favorite films of all time.
Oh God.
Today.
No, they haven't changed in a long time.
Oh, okay.
Amadeus.
Oh, so good.
Milos Forman's Amadeus.
Milos,
Goodfellas.
Yep.
Which I just remember seeing 3 times the first day it opened, and I didn't know what the hell was going on. And then it gets a little harder. Godfather is ridiculous. But I love, Moonstruck. I love Moonstruck. Good. It just makes my heart explode with envy for John, the writer.
Nick Cage. Oh,
so good. And Johnny has his bride.
The
other thing for the writers out there as well is don't not get your stuff out there even when. Like, I'm a mentor in the Writers Guild program, and I'm producing a film right now in New Mexico from a Colombian queer identifying writer director named Alessandra La Carraza. She was this is interesting. In the Writers Guild Mentors program, I was a mentor. She wasn't my mentee, but she was in the program. And I told them in a group, there was about 20 of them, and I told them, I have a development company. So if you have a script that you're proud of and you want to send it to me. Just make sure that it's your last draft, not your first for now. Make sure that there's no typos. Like, don't send me anything that tells me you were careless. But if you send it, it'll get read. And out of about 15 or 20 of them,
she was the only one.
Well, either one or two that sent it. Well, it turns out she's going to have a story like my story, because right now they're in pre-production in New Mexico. Residente is starring in her film. Leslie Grace is starring in her film. She's directing it. It's a little budget. It's going to be about 2 million, but it came because she had the balls to have the script, be proud of it, and send it in. I read it. I was like, I love the script. I showed it to a bunch of people. They love the script, and now we're producing her first feature.
That's amazing. Great story.
So be brave, and don't be cynical. Like, be brave. And yeah, you said it before, surround yourself with other artists. Surround yourself with people. The more people, the more you have a chance to climb weird stairways.
Alex, man, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, brother, it's my pleasure.
It has been such an honor and privilege and just hilarious talking to you, my friend. And I feel like
I hope I didn't get myself in trouble anyway.
Those are the best interviews when I hear the guests out. God, I hope I didn't say something I shouldn't have said. That's always the best conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. You won the Oscar already. It's fine.
Yeah, I can retire, right?
You can retire. You're good. You're good.
Exactly.
Because all you got to do is take, when your rent is due, just show them the Oscar and they don't even charge you. That's the way it works, right?
Beat them with it. It's really heavy. Just kill them, bury them.
Alejandro, thank you. Thank you for not only being on the show, brother, for being an inspiration to so many writers out there, my friend.
Alex,
I appreciate you, man.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.